Good afternoon and welcome to NHADEC's Lunchtime Connections. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce NHADEC members to one another and give us an opportunity to tell each other about our businesses and capabilities. My name is Stephanie McLaughlin and I will be your host today. I am the principal of Savoir-Faire Marketing Communications, a NHADEC member and a member of the Marketing Committee. The format of today's webinar is as follows. We have three presentations. Each presenter will have approximately 8 minutes to talk about their company. At the end of each presentation, there will be some time for Q&A. You can either ask a question of the presenter directly or type your question into the chat panel and I will pose it to them. To ask a question of the presenter directly, please raise your hand using the software interface and I will call on you. I will be monitoring time and keeping us on track. I may close Q&A if we're running long. Raise your hand in the webinar controls or use the chat panel if you have any questions for me during the webinar. And before we start, one housekeeping item. As this is lunchtime and I anticipate some of you will be eating your lunch during the broadcast, please put yourself on mute. I'd like to welcome John Sweeney, the President and CEO of Pragmatic Consulting, to join us today. Hi, John. How are you?
Hi, Stephanie. Good to hear from you.
Likewise, likewise. Really looking forward to hearing about Pragmatic.
Well, thank you. Well, if we move into the first slide, or actually the next slide, Pragmatic is a full-service consulting firm, a management and technical consulting firm, which is a bit of a niche. I, with two other people, invested as a kind of a silent investor in 1994 while I was a plant manager in corporate America. And then as it took traction in the late 90s, we incorporated in 1998 and I took over as full-time CEO and president. We have a lot of domestic and global experience. Our consultants are all over the country. And we do a little work primarily in Europe and Asia. We have a very extensive level of expertise in our staff with applications excellence. It's taken us years to develop over the last 20 years, and we're on our 20-year anniversary. For example, the gentleman that heads up our quality group that does ISO 9000 and AS9100 is a retired director of quality from Westinghouse. Just a really good group of people in their different areas of expertise and subject matter experts. Our strength is in customization. We don't have any canned programs. We quite often take a look at a company and do an analysis of a company or work with a company with their strategies and develop tactical plans to implement, whether that be they need to improve their on-time delivery, they need to improve their information systems, whatever the case may be. And we quite often will do turnarounds of companies once we do that analysis and determine whether they need culture change or whether they need operational improvement. And we've been doing that really since Pragmatic's inception 20 years ago. Next slide, please. So we developed half a dozen years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, a separate website called pragmaticgov.com that is focused on aviation, aerospace, and defense. And we've been helping large and small organizations throughout that entire supply chain. We brag on our literature about the Lockheed Martins and the GEs of the world, but a lion's share of our companies that we help are small and medium-sized companies. And philosophically, we just wanted to be a full service. I like to explain ourselves as like a mini Accenture or Deloitte without the exorbitant fees and a much better value. But it was philosophical that we be a full service enterprise. We thought it was much too myopic to be an IT house or to be a human resource consulting firm because many of our clients require a cross-functional set of expertise in order to be successful in implementing the kind of technical or culture change that is required. Next slide, please. So we most often start with strategic planning with the company, and many times they have a strategy, or we critique a strategy or give them food for thought, and many times we help them develop their strategic planning. And we use a balanced scorecard approach that makes sure that we look at a company's environments from both a operations standpoint, from a sales and marketing standpoint, from a personnel and talent composite standpoint, and from a process standpoint. We've done M&As, which we will do either pre-M&A or post or both to help companies. We did one a few years ago where we took a company headquartered in Chicago and one in New England, and it merged, and we had to put together two different corporate cultures, all the way from two different executive compensation programs to benefits programs and what have you, and then really develop the tactical plans from that. This often has us take a look at not just organization, but redundant operations. We did this particular company each one had an operation in France, and we took the two plants and consolidated them for redundancy and operations. So the tactical plans are developed depending on the needs of the company and the desired results. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, and then the technical part was very important. We've had an IT group putting in full enterprise systems since our inception, and actually before, when I was an ex-director at Harris of North America, putting 5 different systems together. And recently, the technology has moved us to support compliance and security. We do DFARS. We do all kinds of projects that are generated around aviation, aerospace, and defense, whether it be ITAR implementation and training that we've done several of, and now the recent DFAR 252 and its subsections that's spelled out in the NIST 800-171 that requires not only internal information security, whether you're land-based or whether you're cloud-based, and of course, in recent times now, a lot more companies are moving to the cloud with their enterprise systems, and we do a lot in cybersecurity and application and prevention. So really, it depends. We are full service, and we would love to come help your company with whatever given needs they have. You see our contact info below at pragmaticgov.com, and I think Stephanie's supplying that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was great. Hey, I do have one question for you. You say you're full service and cross-functional, but I'm curious, do some companies only use 1 or 2 of your services versus the full set, or do you only work with companies on the full set?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We'll do a ISO 9000 implementation or an AS 9100 implementation if a company has a need for just that service. But we do have the bench strength or depth to be able to do something that's more of a full service solution if required. It's really, when I say customization, we customize to the company's needs and then apply the given expertise that's required to get those results.
That's fantastic. Thanks, John. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for having us.
So thanks so much to all our presenters. I sincerely appreciate your time and attention. And if you would like to refer back to this presentation or share it with someone you think might be interested, the video of today's episode will be posted on YouTube and on the NHADEC blog in the coming days. And if you're listening to today's episode and you're interested in being a presenter at an upcoming Lunchtime Connections, please send me an email. My email address is on the screen. It's stephanie@savoirfair-us.com. Thanks so much, and that's it for us today at Lunchtime Connections.